find myself leaving one of these mornings. Gonna find myself gone. You talk a good game, but don't practice what you preach. You better start to pray, yeah, 'cause I got a lesson here to teach. One of these mornings, you know I'll be leaving. Wait and see, you're gonna be grieving.
Do you always go to your patients' funerals?
Sometimes, yes.
They told me you got along. She really liked you. So what do you do now? Do you have another patient?
Not yet, no.
With your film director. There's quite a long story here. It started in Cannes, if I'm not mistaken. You were here for the Un certain regard section in 2012, and who was the president of the jury? Well, it was Tim Roth, and he gave you the prize for Un certain regard. Is that where your working relationship began?
Yeah, he's to blame. Yeah, this is the guilty man to have chronic made, and I'm very proud of the film, and we're very happy to be back here. But yeah, Un certain regard, this is really a Cannes story, you know. It all began here.
Yeah, it was a when we saw his film. One of the rules that I set up for the jury was not to really know anything about the film. You would know that it was a first timer, maybe, or where it came from. And so we were not prepared for D'Espèce Lucia at all. We had no idea what was going to hit us. And then I had spent a lot of time recovering afterwards. And then when we finally met, I was asking him, what are you going to do next? He said, well, I think maybe do a film about a hospice nurse. I said, well, make it male and I'll do it. So that's how we got together. Yeah.
Alors justement, pourquoi Michel Franco avoir mis en scène
So
ce
why,
cheminement
Michel Franco, did you choose to do the story of this respite care nurse?
D'où est venue cette histoire?
Where did you get the idea from?
I got the idea because on 2010 my grandmother got sick. She suffered a stroke, which kept her on bed for several months until she finally died. And the nurse that took care of her really caught my eye, and they developed a very strong relationship, very intimate, that went far beyond the professional. And you know, it made me wonder how come someone is so giving, and how come such a job is so complex that you're moving from one patient to the other, always giving so much of yourself. How's the life of such a person? And then I wrote this movie, which is total fiction. It has nothing to do with the story of my grandmother, but it was inspired by that nurse.
Tim,
to prepare this role, I believe you worked with real-life nurses. What did that bring to your role?
They're an incredible species. They're an extraordinary group of people that I work with. Some they all have a different kind of approach to their job, but I found them all to be strong and laced with a kind of a sense of humor, which was at times very inappropriate, which doesn't necessarily feature in the film, but it's kind of how they were. And but it's the last kind of taboo. In a way, death. It's a subject we run away from, and it's an act that they run towards. So I found them to be fascinating people. You know, they were wonderfully helpful, wonderfully helpful.
Protect yourself. How did you feel about that when you were playing the role of this nurse?
It was very scary. It was scary up until the point when we jumped in and started doing it. But in all the preliminary research and the work that we did beforehand, I found it to be very worrying and very disturbing. But as soon as we jumped in, I was kind of trained at that point, and it became okay. I mean, the one thing that they do is they get you, the nurses, the real nurses that we have, they got me ready to play the role as well. So, I mean,
and all the nurses were so happy for this film to be made because it's never been portrayed from their point of view in a realistic way, you know, in a complex way. Like normally it's from the patient side if there's a story about, but never about nurses. And for me, it was very moving, the casting, especially when an actor, Michael Christopher, did something that was very similar to what my grandmother suffered. It really hit home.
Oui.
Yeah, it was emotional.
Oui, je comprends tout à fait. Vous filmez
I understand that. You have a wonderful way of framing still shots, and you also film from a distance. You're not only filming the discussions, but you're filming the care, the treatment, difficult at times where the ill person no longer has control of their body. Did you feel it was important to show these rare images?
Well, I wanted to give the audience an objective point of view where I'm not manipulating. It's very easy to over-dramatize these situations. Actually, it's hard to keep it not cool, but, you know, to stay objective. That doesn't mean making a cult film because we weren't interested in that at all. We really hope the film's emotional, and I think his character really keeps that emotional string. But the framing had to be also invisible, you know? It shouldn't be artistic. It shouldn't get you too close, too far. The camera should work in a very subtle way, which is hard to find. My cinematographer, Yves Cap, was a great help to achieve this.
This is a provocatively bleak film. And of course, it's about dealing with trauma, but I'm curious about a subtext I saw in the film, which is, I don't know how to describe it, the lack of caring or of affect between all the characters. And that was very curious to me, if you could comment on that. And to Tim Roth, bravo.
One step at a time, thank you.
Thank you, sorry.
Okay, well, to me, what carries the film is Tim's character and the fact that he's so giving with all these patients, even though they're strangers. And, you know, he enters a room, starts a relationship, and he's giving and develops these strong, affectionate strings. Then, of course, it happens in a difficult moment for these families because, you know, they're in the middle of having an important, loving member of the family sick. So things get complicated, you know. That's life and miscommunications and all those things. I wanted to make an objective portrayal of how complicated those moments of life are and how this stranger lives through that and helps not only in his medical duties, but also gets involved in the personal matters.
Yes.
And for Tim Roth, bravo to your performance. It's very unusual. And could you comment on how you played this contained emotion? It's unusual for you as well, this role.
Yeah, it's no jumping around. I didn't really know initially when I read the script and we were in communication about it as well for a while. I didn't quite know how to go about it, but when we were researching, I don't know if I'm doing this properly. When we were researching the nurses, I met many of them, and also people who studied the hospice and studied the end-of-life issues. And I kind of gleaned the character from those meetings in a way. I found my way into it through that, and it was, and then it's kind of stripped bare. It's a non-vanity film. It's very much leave your ego at the door, you know, kind of portrayal. You kind of I was worried that the fact of me being in the middle of it would distract from the subject and from the kind of filmmaking that Michel does. That worried me, so I kind of stripped him away. I stripped myself away as much as I possibly could. But I'm not a Methodist actor, as I call him. I don't do that stuff. But it's just very quiet. He was a very quiet guy, and found my way through with him. It was very disturbing to play, I must say.
My question is about acting to all 4 actors, if it's possible. I found out that the tone you were all playing was kind of tuned in a very special, very quiet tone, you know. Was it an accurate choice by the director, or each actor defines this quiet tone as its joint style? How was it organized? How did it come?
I think it comes from Michel, and what he does that's so extraordinary is to allow you simply to live in front of the camera. There is no filter. There's no continuity person. There's no one telling you you have to move in a certain way. At one point, he just said, have dinner together. And we did. So there's no reason to act. You just live.
If you're as talented as she is, you can manage that. I was blessed to find Robin.
Miss Sutherland?
I mean, I think it's also inherent in the tone of the subject matter that, you know, it'll be a bit of a slower pace, and I think it was really carefully guided in the script that Michel wrote. But I feel like I really had a sense of the timing, even beginning with the audition, because his first note to me was to count to 5 in between, like, each line. So from that moment on, it was clear there was sort of a set tone and pace that continued throughout the rest of filming.
Ms. Norvind?
I agree. It comes from Michel's vision of his movie. I think it's an auteur movie. I think we have most of us have seen his other work, and I know Michel very well. So we didn't have to talk about it. It just happened as we were on the set, and the energy just happened that way. And of course, you're the one that sees it from the outside. And if we were out of sync, you would make sure that it didn't happen. But we haven't seen the film, so it's nice to hear that.
But the question is also extended.
Can I answer that,
yes, please.
Because I find that intriguing, just that aspect of it. And it's a dangerous line to tread. But the character that I'm playing is at a certain point in his life. So his emotional language, this is where you arrive at seeing him. This is what you find. Is also the level of internal damage, psychological damage is at a certain point. So it's expressed, that's how he expresses himself. Musically on that tone as well. And he keeps arriving in people's lives where they've arrived at a similar kind of circumstance themselves. So the musical tone can, although it does vary, one hopes it does vary at times, but the musical tone has a kind of a resonance that pushes right through the film. It's an emotional note that is played. The danger, I guess, is if we overplay it in one direction or the other, or overplay it in general. But I found it interesting because at end of life, each patient I'm arriving in their life at their end of life in a way, and so their music had a resonance for me. Don't know if that made any sense whatsoever, but it did to me.
What's the feeling right before the screening here?
It's amazing. This is a celebration for my work, for my film, for everyone on the crew, for Tim Roth, who did an amazing job. We're very happy.
Michel is a very young director, and you've done tons of movies. How to get to the relationship with an actor like you and a young director like Michel?
With him, it was that all started when we were, when he was writing. I mean, once I decided, and he decided we were going to work together. Then it was we were constantly collaborating with the whole thing, during the whole process for 2 years.
I've been up, I've been down, I've been round, I've been round, I've been upside down, I've been the right way